Good morning, what is up, people? Today we have a little job to do. Customer brought me a car because their scan gauge would no longer read on the vehicle, and it's got a little bit of an idle issue. So last night I verified that indeed the scanner was having difficulty hooking up. The snap-on scanner wouldn't hook up to it at all. My cheap scanner, I was able to manipulate the plug-in and make it actually talk to the car. So basically what that means is at least I assume what that means is the pins are spread on the OBD II port. So I'm going to tear it down and see if I can't fix those pins up and make the other tool read, so I can read the live data and graphing a little bit easier. Yeah, so that's the plan. There it is. Okay, so we got the DLC pulled up. I had to drop that lower bezel out of the way, but what's going on, I believe, is this is your pin. Actually, let's see what we got here. Pin number 2, 2, 4, 5. Here's your diagram. Pin number 2 is the actual data link. So that would be that guy right there. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to pull these all out and kind of, like I said, pinch them, clean them up a little bit, put them back together. I love it when a plan comes together. So like I said, all I did was just pull that pin out of there. So I should show you how to do that here real quick, huh? Alright, so what goes on in here, and pretty much every electrical connector since the beginning of time, you have the terminal slips in there, and you probably won't be able to see this, but anyway, on the lower side of the terminal there's a little clip. So what I do is take my special electrical clippy removal tool guy. Basically what you do is you reach down in here and you just touch that little clip a little bit. And the terminal just pulls out the back. Okay, so on the bottom side it's got this hole, that's where that terminal locks. So basically what I did is I just poked up that little metal in there a little bit. And what that does is it closes the hole here. So, like I said, that locks on the bottom of the deal. It hooks into that hole on the back of this terminal here, right? So what's going on is there's a little tab that's bent around and it goes in there, and then those two pieces are supposed to pinch onto the terminal that's in the tool, right? So it's supposed to pinch onto those little slides. And it doesn't take much for those to get stretched out. That's why when you're plugging these in, you want to make sure they go straight in. You don't want to be like getting all wonky with them, because it will stretch these and then you won't be able to read them. So basically that's what goes on with that. I'll click that back in there. Does number 2 work for? Back down in there until it clicks, and then that's it. And then what you'll do is you'll put these locks back in there as well. So this one goes in this side, slipping in like that. This one will go back in this side, slips in like that. Alright, so now I'll put this back together and we can work on the misfire, rough running stuff. Okay, after a little diagnostic work and whatnot, I ended up getting in here and checking the spark plug wires. So if you don't know, on these Toyota wires, they will actually tell you a year. You can read that right there. That does in fact say 1996. Okay, so which means these are factory OG wires on this car. So I pulled the driver's side bank out and they all look good. I know this motor's been gone through recently, so the plugs were good. Put them back in, fired it back up, run a little bit rough. The misfire counter I could actually read, and it was showing me massive misfires. 1, 3, 1, 2, 3, 6, all over the place. So since I already saw the plugs were good on that side, that's showing me that either I have a wire problem or a coil problem. So I came over here to this side and it looks pretty nasty, and it's basically exactly what you think was going on. See the end of that boot is all covered with oil. End of that boot's all covered with oil, and you probably can't see. Let me get a light. Yeah, you can see the valve cover is all covered with residue. And so what's going on and what causes that is this inner ring failed, and that allows oil to get into the well, get into the spark plug, and then the oil just acts as an insulator and it makes it hard to ignite that charge in there. So basically you're sparking into that oil versus sparking into the cylinder head. So this particular vehicle needs plug wires and needs valve cover reseal. Like I said, I did fix the OBD II port so I could read. Fix the fog light while I was here. Oh yeah, here was the other thing I noticed. Noticed it was running really, on top of running rough, it had a serious vibration. Can you see what's missing from right there? Oh, one. It's missing more than one. 1, 2. So also needs a fan. In typical fashion, I started this without you. You saw kind of where I was at yesterday. Pulled the intake boot, pulled the coils off, and just in the action of getting the vacuum lines unhooked and the spark plugs out of the way. So really over here you have these lines that are attached here. There are a couple little vacuum fittings right here that I already pulled up out of the way. Okay, so if you get confused, you just mark these as they come off or take a picture of it or something. It makes your life a lot easier if, like I said, like your first time going through this or whatever. So this just has a little clip on the back of it. It snaps on there and you just pull that out of the way. So yeah, that's kind of where I'm at this point. I'm gonna go ahead and get the cables unhooked and off out of the way, undo the throttle body, and then I can get the intake manifold off out of the way. So just hang back for that. Okay, so the plenum is out, and this kind of deal, there's no reason to pull the throttle body off and open up the coolant system, so it can just hang out there. What you do want to do is put something over actually the intake so nothing falls in. What I decided to do here was do the driver's side first. It's the harder side, I guess, because you know, we could have did the passenger side without pulling the plenum off. So technically this is the hard side. It's also the cleaner side. So I'm just going to tie these fuel lines up out of the way and try to just kind of hold everything out of the way here, and then I'm going to go ahead and get that valve cover off. By this point in time, this should be relatively common knowledge, but if you're in here and for some reason you don't know, when you're doing the valve cover job, you need to pull out these little U's right here, little half moons, excuse me, and the cam caps. And those all need to be re-glued in there because the silicone is just hard and crusty and it just needs to be replaced. So you take those out, clean them up, put new silicone in there, and then you should be good to go for a long time of no CP valve cover. Here we are at the second valve cover. I just want to talk about this real quick because it can be kind of a pain to do. These seals, when you go to pull them back out of here, what I've had luck doing is hitting them with a punch like this. Punch, 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 punch. You get the side to collapse like that. And then it makes it much easier to get them out. And there is your part number to these tube seals. The seal has two sides. You want to be able to, this side needs to face the tube, otherwise you won't be able to get it on. You'll fight it. So this side faces up into the valve cover. Okay, so we're showing almost 10 thousandths at the axle face right there. So that is why we're going to swap this axle out. I have a junkyard axle. We're going to put it in. We're going to run the same test. When we go ahead and pull this axle shaft out of here, pretty much what goes on is you need to disconnect this clip from the e-brake cable. There's a clevis and a pin that goes through there. After that, you want to come over here and remove the wheel speed sensor. That's a 10mm head. The brake line, again, a 10. And then the 4 bolts that hold the flange on. So once you get the 4 bolts, once those are all done, put a block on the line here, and then the whole axle will just come right out. Alrighty, this is junkyard axle number 1. Good morning, here we are again back at it. I went and got a new axle shaft from the guy. He said he'd go ahead and replace it because it wasn't good to go. So I'll just show you the new one here real quick. Now, I don't remember if I talked about this before, but basically, the factory manual said 4 thousandths was tolerable. You saw that other one was closer to 8, and the one that I'm pulling out was like 10. So, I mean, the reality is any amount of runout on the flange transfers to your wheel and the tire and everything else. So, it's just better to have 0 runout on rotating parts, or as close to 0 as possible. So, this axle shaft is good to go. I'm going to go ahead and change out the bearing and the brake pads on this, get this other drum cleaned up, and we'll start getting it back together. Okay, so just a quick little detail here. Here's part number for your collar. If you don't have either, you need 2 for an ABS brake. Part number for this wheel bearing. Dimension, I guess. Choose a good part so you don't have to get back in here. Alrighty, a little bit of a delay there. I ended up having to reposition this. What can happen if these kind of get off kilter like that? So it's... Anyway, that was kind of causing me some problems, so I had to take it apart and start over again. What goes on then at that point is the bearing and the collar are on. We go ahead and put the snap ring back in, okay? And then because of the way this is set up, you'll have your ABS ring, and then you'll have your second collar on there. So what I do with this is I just manually tap them down there. We know about where this goes, and I know what the distance is, so I'll get it close, and then I'll just tap the stuff down on there, and then it'll be ready to go back together. If you've seen my other video, we'll just link it right here. Link it right here, somewhere, whatever. A little more in depth than what I've done here today.
That wraps up another episode of Snale Racing.
Thank you for watching. Please make sure to like and subscribe.